I call the honourable member for
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Speaker. And I'd just like to, if I could, also associate myself with this motion. And you know, the horrendous events of a couple of weeks ago now, some 2 weeks ago now, we had when we seen the Serve You Right Cafe in Ravenshoe literally implode. And as rightly said by Leader Opposition, the images, the graphic images that we've seen captured on in the news were really something quite horrendous. 21 people actually were injured, and as Member for Kennedy has said, 2 sadly to date have succumbed to their injuries. First one, of course, 37-year-old Nicole Dempsey, who sadly passed away and was buried in the community last Friday. The second funeral for 82-year-old Margaret Clark will be happening on Thursday in Innisfail. We're not out of the woods yet, Madam Speaker, because there's still a number of critically ill patients in Brisbane, and we have others that are in a stable condition in our local hospital, including the driver of the vehicle. People have started already, as we see in far north Queensland communities, being very, very generous. There is an appeal to assist the victims. It's an official Give It Ravenshoe. It's GIVEIT Ravenshoe appeal, and you can contribute to that by visiting www.giveit.org.au. And I think it's important that when you listen or reflect on a tragedy like this, you recognise the absolute heroic nature of this community. There were 2 firefighters there at that cafe at the time, going about their normal work, talking to some senior members of the community, and Joe Teresi and Michael Beck, the 2 firefighters, were there in spite of the fact that they were very badly burned. They ignored their own burns and continued to help other people. You know, they both, we hope, will survive, but they're going to face years and years of rehabilitation. There's also the local paramedic who was on his own, Darryl Thompson. Well, he was on his own in so much he was the only paramedic in town, but for 13 minutes before emergencies arrived. But Darryl will say to you that he was never on his own, because the community, right from the moment this happened, were there to rally around him, and an extraordinary effort by all of the community, including, as I say, the firefighters that were already victims of this, others like Eric Bolitis, who was across the road as an artist, actually went into the burning building, dragging out one woman by her feet in an effort, because she pleaded with him not to touch her hands because they were badly burnt. Ken Tobler was another one, burns to 37% of his body, and yet he rushed in there. Many other locals, too numerous to name. Madam Speaker, the strength of the community, of course, is always gauged by how people respond to these tragedies, and this community, the small tableland community, has responded in the most amazing way. I was talking yesterday to Nicola Baker, who was a very dear and close friend of Nicole Dempsey, and she was explaining to me that they're getting together as a community, and Nicole was a very strong supporter of the school, mother of 2 beautiful children, young Jordan, who was 13, and Brodie, who was 8. She was also very heavily involved, as the member for Kennedy said, in netball and in the local footy team. What they're looking to do is to put together a proposal in relation to the local community sports area there, and I'm glad to hear the Deputy Prime Minister will be going up there, because they'll be talking about there is a fitting legacy there for the contribution of young Nicole there, and I think it's something that the community is already focusing on, how they can make a positive out of this absolute tragedy. And my condolences, of course, are with those families that have lost loved ones, and of course our best wishes and hopes with those that have still got the challenges ahead.
In a moment, I'm going to ask members if they'll rise in their places to acknowledge the courage, pain and loss that has been suffered by those in Ravenscroft. But I'm also going to ask, when we stand, that we ask the Deputy Prime Minister to take with him the wishes of the House to extend condolences to those who have lost loved ones and to extend the compassion or the empathy and sympathy that the House feels for their loss when you travel there on Monday. So I would ask members to rise in their places to acknowledge those things. I thank the House and those who spoke.